What's going on, everybody? HipPause here to bring you a very short but I think quite effective tutorial. The reason it's going to be short is because I am not going to show you how I made any of these parts or how I did anything. I'm just going to show it to you and tell you how it's done basically. And what I've got here is what I like to call dynamic road system. As you can see, we got this road building out all over the place. Okay, now it's not perfect, but it does collide. And I gotta admit, it's kind of hard as hell to stay on this thing. And I suck. Okay, and then if I play it again, it's going to be completely different, and I'm hoping that the error of it shows up. Didn't show up that time. Let's try it again. The thing is, it doesn't have a check to see if it's going to like cross over itself. I tried a couple things to fix that, but I couldn't really get it to work. But as you can see, it does in fact build a dynamic road, and this is all Kismet. It's real easy, real easy. Okay, so here's what we got. I got a package of road pieces. Okay, these are all snap to grid. You can see I haven't done any kind of work on the look of it. No textures, no sidewalks, no side buildings, no props, no nothing, but it doesn't matter what this mesh is. This one's got collision, but the most of them use per poly. They're all low polygon, 12 to 92 polygon, so it's quite low, but I'm sure that they'll get a little bit higher as time goes on. I've got some curve up and to the left and things like that, and I model all these in 3D Studio, and you can see them here. Like if I select this one here, excuse me, I'm getting some burpees, and what I've done is it's just built off a box, okay, and this number here is mathed out so that the if I unhide all here, like if I take this object and hide unselected, you can see that this object gets placed at 960 by 960, okay? And with this, with a 90-degree bend, 2 pi r divided by 4 comes out correct. So you can get pi from the internet. I wouldn't actually just use 3.14 because it's not long enough. You want to get a little bit more accurate, so go 6, 7, 8 digits back. But you guys, I'm pretty sure you can figure out the math here to get the length that you need to get 960, or well, however big you want it. Now the thing is that the road is a little too small, which makes driving on it real difficult, and it makes you know, if this was like a city, obviously it would be too small. But whatever scale you use really doesn't matter. So what I've got is I've got a static mesh, but I've also got a skin mesh version of it too, and that's the secret to the whole thing. So if I unhide all, I don't know why it does that, but what I've got 2 bones here. I've got a root bone, and I've got it's Max 10 does this. Max 2010 does this whenever UDK is open. But I got a root bone, and I've got a hookup bone. Okay, and this is basically just a bone that is used to link the next piece where it's supposed to go. And what I've been doing is every time that there's a every time I do a different piece, I'll take this bone, and because I can't just dupe it for the whole thing, and I don't want to have to give it different names, you know, hookup 1, hookup 2, hookup 3, or anything like that, and I don't want to save a bunch of max scenes. So what I've been doing is being careful and then unlinking it and just moving it into the right place and rotating it right. So for this one, it would actually need to be 1500 by 0, okay? and then negative 234 is because I have moved it down. I've ramped this one down, so ramp down. So, and let's see, hide unselected here. Where is it? This object is very simple. It's just got an FFD modifier, and all I did, it's a 4x4, and I took these verts and I moved them down to negative 250, and I kept these verts at the same point. So if I want this to ramp up, I can just put this to positive 250, and you can see it gives a nice tangent of, because I've got two flats here, it gives a nice tangent and still gives a nice curve. So I export a static version and a skeletal mesh version with the bones in it. And what I've done in UDK is, and as you can see here, here's all the skeletal mesh versions, okay? And if I show the bones, you can see that it's got root and then hookup. Okay, every single one of these has that. Okay, I've textured some of them as glass, but same thing, root and hookup. Okay, and then the other key to the whole thing, and you'll notice here there's nothing in the map except a couple of vehicles. There is a path node here that is a dynamic path node. Okay, you can find that very easily by going to actor classes and just type in path, and this is the kind of path node you need. Path node dynamic. It's got to be able to move around. Okay, and then in Kismet, what I do is the very first thing, I nailed a object variable here and passed in the let me shrink this in some, and I passed in the variable name is path node, okay, and the value is this object here, okay. So if I double click this here, like if I deselect and I double click it, it will select that path node, okay. So I added that, and on level loaded I activated a remote event of choose road piece, and all I do is just do a number check, however many. So this is like it shouldn't have been road count, it should have been road amount, it should have been road count. These two variables ended up not working out for me, but all I do is I say, okay, well, fire it, compare the integer. If it's less than 50, because it starts at 0, then count it up 1, and then do a random one of these 12 events. Now these 12 events are all right here, and they're all identical except for what's getting spawned. Now let me go through it real quick. So here's the remote event when it gets fired. So this is spawn straight. It's going to spawn a straight piece. I'm using the actor factory EX, and I'm spawning the skeletal mesh. Okay, road straight here is a skeletal mesh here. If I double click that, you can see it, and again, it's got the bone names, hookup and root. In the same location, and I make sure that I put out a object here. There's nothing special going on here at all in the properties, except for the fact that I just called a skeletal mesh, and I just tell it to spawn count 1. Delay doesn't matter, and I'm using the path node as a point, as a spawn point. See, if you notice, the this variable is also named, so it's got the value is my object, my path node object, but my variable name is just called path node. So I'm spawning it at a copy of that here, and I'm piping out the object to an empty object variable. Right after that, with a 0.1 delay, I spawn the static mesh version. Now the kind of factory that this has to be is the UT actor factory team static mesh, okay? I think this goes off the screen. However, just standard static mesh here does not work, okay? It does not work. But down below there is a UT actor factory team static mesh, and that does in fact work. Okay, so after I do that, what I do is I attach actor, okay, and if you look at the settings here, I hard attach, I use relative offset, relative rotation, and the bone name is hookup, okay. Relative offset is going to make it so that it is going to orient it to that bone, so it's going to put this path node, because the path node is the attachment and the target object is the object that got spawned. Right after that, I destroy the skeletal mesh because I don't need it anymore. I only needed it for placement. And then I go back and I reactivate the choose road piece. It goes back here and it does the same thing, picks a different one. Any one of these. And they're all identical. They all do exactly the same thing except for the mesh I'm feeding it. So you see SK mesh road ramp down. then road ramp down, which is a static mesh. You can see right here. Skeletal mesh, static mesh. Attach to actor. Make sure you put in the right bone name. Once you've got one of these, you can just copy it and paste it out. You can see I got 12 of them, and all I had to do on each one of these things was name the event to match the events over here. Okay, now this is a random, which is very easy. New action, can't remember what it's under. It's switch. Okay, let me see if I can't get that on screen. New action, switch, random. Okay, and all you do is come here and you can say however many links you want it to have. Okay, so there's 50 links on that damn thing. Okay, and then it comes out here. And then what I do is however many road pieces I want. Let's say I want this to only just be 3 road pieces. And I hit play here. As long as I'm floating over the over this spot, you'll see that I'm just going to get, there's 3 road pieces, and then it's done. Okay, and that's it. So if I say I can do 100 of these things, it's going to go on for quite a while. Now, I don't know if there's a part where it's going to cross over itself, but it will in fact cross over itself. You can see it's still building way out there. Let me, oops. I think it might even still be going. Yeah, it's still going. And it's just picking a new piece, and once it spawns it, it puts the path node at the bone of the skeletal mesh, and then once it does that, then it deletes the skeletal mesh, because it only needed that to move the path node. And here you can see is where it crossed over, so that's not very good. And if I play it again, oops, I didn't mean to hit escape, I meant to hit, so I hit fly here, it's gone way off into the distance. Make note that this does pretty much require dynamic gliding, and it is drivable. It collides. Each piece is using per poly collision. I did create collision meshes for each one, but it got a little jumpy, and you can see here, look, this is where it pretty much kind of screws up and crosses over itself. A lot of the reason for that is because I did include a 90-degree bend. Now, if you didn't include a 90-degree bend and you just said like you just did the S curves, the road would basically go just infinitely like in one direction, and it wouldn't it would never, never really cross over itself. You could also make sure that if you really wanted to, make sure that the 90-degree turns were extremely rare. You could add way more links here and just pipe all those links to the same thing. So if I wanted to make like the chance that the spawn straight happens more often than anything else, I could say like 20 links here, and all of these links, well, that's pretty fast. All of these extra links go to this one. So there's way more chance that this is going to happen than any of the others. This one has a higher chance. Now if I did 100 links and I piped, this would take a little while for you. You might get a little bit of carpal tunnel going on, but it could be worth it. You could also say that maybe every you could do a counter, you could do extra checks to say whether or not, okay, every 10 pieces that has gone by, then it's actually allowed to do like a 90-degree turn, and then reset that, So if this is greater than 10, then it allows it. And all you got to do is on the 90 turns, spawn 90 left, you can just say, okay, well, if it's hit this okay check, if it's over 10, then you can do this. If not, just fire this again. Fire the choose road piece again. So you could put a new choose road piece out here. So you could put additional checks on any one of these if you wanted to make them less rare, or only in certain cases, like only after a straight. So you could put a variable that says, okay, straight just became true. And then so every time you do this, you check, okay, well, is straight true? If not, then do it, and it'll still be random if it doesn't pick anything else, you know. And right in the beginning of every single one of these, you could add just a thing to set straight to false again, you know, and that would work. But you'll see now that I'll get much more straight. I'll get a more straight road. It should go more north. It's still going to have a chance to do anything else, but there should be a lot more straight segments. As you can see, almost every other piece is straight in a sense, but again, it's not exactly enough, because you can see the road passes through right here. So that's the problem. One of the things I tried to do, which didn't really work, was to do this, because here's the thing: there's a check on here to say check spawn collision, and it says prevent spawning at locations with B block actors. Now this might work if the skeletal meshes have collisions on them. But what I did was, after this object was spawned, you can go new action, actor, change collision, and you can actually say block actors. So I had done that, and that would be this object here, which is the static mesh that gets spawned. Okay, so now this object actually gets this, okay, to block actors. But that didn't do anything for me. But the main reason that it didn't do anything for me is because these guys, these skeletal meshes, they don't have collisions. And the thing is the only way to create collisions on a skeletal mesh is to actually do a physics asset. But see, what I was hoping was that it would get, okay, it spawns a skeletal mesh. The skeletal mesh, you know, is now cutting through another static mesh. Then it tries to spawn the static mesh, which should have this on there. And so I was assuming that if this check worked, check spawn collision, that aborted would allow me to say, okay, destroy the original static mesh, and then go back and try it again. So it would actually, if it hit another piece, it would, okay, it can't do it. It tries to spawn it, can't spawn it, then it goes back and does this. But what happened is, if every single piece kept trying to do that, especially in a case where, say, it just randomly kind of like makes like a circuit that's going to slam into itself, and the last piece was a straight road, and nothing will fit there, and it's only 5 pieces that got built, there is a chance that, I mean, if this check was successful, that it would no piece would work, because they're all slammed up against each other. So in that case, if that worked, my plan was to hopefully say, okay, well, I'm going to track a number of failed attempts, and if the number of failed attempts is bad, then I'm going to I'm going to undo a couple of steps. And the way to actually do that, to track these things as like as if you can get yourself an undo, would be to create a new variable of object list. New variable object list here, okay? And then what you can do is new action object list, and you can access that list. And then you can also do new action object list, modify the list. So every time one of these things spawns, you say add this object to the list, and this object would be the list of objects. So in this case, if you were doing this, you wouldn't actually delete the objects on each one of these. You would wait until this whole thing is done, and then you would say to go and get, because remember, you can access the list, so you can do a count here. So however many pieces got spawned, say 100 pieces got spawned, you could do a count here, and all you got to do is just delete the index number, because you got the list here. So you can access this list, and then you can pipe this out to a new object variable, and then you can say new action actor destroy here, and say like this. So for 1 to 100, by doing the same exact count check that I've done here, okay, just with new variables, all of this, I could just copy this actually. You could, and I'd have to rename these, and then you would just go add index. So access it and then destroy it, add index. So you could count this backwards. So if you needed to say, okay, I need to go back like 3 steps because this one's failing, then you could say, you know, this number minus 3 or whatever number it's currently at. Because that's the other thing. If at any moment this got stopped, road amount would be locked in. So if I got to 56 pieces and then it couldn't do it anymore, I put, you know, and then, you know, a fail check comes in, like I put, you know, on a boarded. See, that's the thing. What I'm not exactly sure how this works. Now, if anybody knows, I would appreciate it if you can tell me in the forum post or in the comments for this video, because I'm going to post this on UDK's forums. If there's a way to get this, what does the boarded actually mean? Because I never got this to do. I never got anything coming out of here. I don't even really understand what spawn 1 is, to be honest with you. I know finished when this is done, but yeah, I was hoping that this would do it. And I did have this originally on every single one of these pieces, but it didn't work. It didn't abort. So yeah, so if you guys can shed some further light on that, that would be cool, and I'm sure it'd help everybody else out. I'll just move this stuff out of the way here. But yeah, you could easily add the objects to a list and then delete them later. But it's pretty cool. I mean, it works out pretty good, you know. Also, you have to keep in mind one particular thing. You'll notice I've got little delays here. Without those, some of these things don't work. Okay, particularly attached to actor. Without this delay, this doesn't actually work. So put a little delay in there. It can actually be 0.01. But what you could do too is if you wanted to actually like let the players see it, you could say activate a delay here and say like every 1 second, and then when I play this now, it'll actually take like a second for each piece to come out. And you can see the skeletal mesh, how its glass appears and then it gets deleted. You can see the skeletal mesh appear first. And it's important to have that so you can have something to actually hook onto, because remember, static meshes don't have any kind of like key to them, you know. And this is gonna go until there's 100 pieces. And like I said, you know, you can okay, that came out a little slow in the beginning. I need to not have that delay in there because that's delaying the very first one. So I could probably put it to 0.5 and get away with it. The other thing that you could do would be to have this actually be like an endless road. So like you could put like a touch event on each one of these objects, and once I've passed over this one deletes, and then 20 roads ahead it draws a new one. And then if you had enough fog or something, you know, so this would basically, you would drive on a road that never ever ends. And it just keeps going and going and going. See, right now it builds 100 pieces and then it stops. And obviously you don't want to sit there and just build an infinite number of pieces, because eventually your system's going to hang up. But if you were deleting the ones that were behind you by, you know, like I said, controlling a list, and yeah, the road pieces are actually too small, and I'm working on that right now for myself, because as you can see, they're just too damn small. But and that makes it so that the collisions are actually kind of acting like a little. The car slams into them every once in a while. For the most part, I've been able to drive around okay for a good long time without any issues, and it's pretty smooth. And again, these are just per poly. You could create your own collisions, but really these objects are only 92 polygons each. There's no lag. There's no noticeable real problem with it or anything like that. It says paths need to be rebuilt, but really nothing needs to be rebuilt. And again, you know, you could fill in the sides with stuff, no problem. You can obviously have a skybox background. You can do anything you want. You could give it a walls so that you can't crash, you can't fly off of it. But this in itself it could be a game in itself, and you could easily just set a difficulty by saying, okay, how many pieces do you have, you know, how far do you have to go, which is easily just configurable for how many pieces it is, you know. You could set all this up in Kismet. I mean not Kismet, but scale form. You could give them a menu real easy. I am in the process right now of working on a full-blown tutorial for for scale form to Kismet. So if you're interested in that, maybe give me a like or a subscribe or share or something like that. Dang, I really suck, don't I? You could easily respawn by just having a vehicle factory that that respawns you. You know, respawns a vehicle however many times with only one available. So if it gets destroyed, it is potentially random. Remember, it's random, so it could go below the kill Z if it kept doing ramps down, constantly kept ramping down. It could very easily just go below the kill Z. So you probably want to keep your kill Z real low. It might be cool to put, like, you know, make it look like they're in outer space. You know, put a big giant planet down there or something like that for some kind of a futuristic thing. Obviously, this isn't like gonna work for. This won't work for terrain. But I tell you what would work for terrain is doing the exact same thing, but instead of spawning static meshes, you spawn decals. That would work. You'd still need the skeletal meshes to have the bone registration, but you wouldn't you know, you wouldn't need to you don't have to spawn static meshes. You know, you could spawn pretty much anything. Now the Jeep's a lot faster and turns a lot better, which actually makes it a hell of a lot harder. This is our vehicle, but and you can see sometimes the collision acts a little funky, but I think once I get the roads to be bigger pieces, that it'll be a lot better. And if I respawn, I'm pretty sure that you can get the all I did was added a vehicles factory here, and I don't remember if you can tell this how many what's it's to use or whatnot, but I'm pretty sure there's a way that you can spawn vehicles using Kismet, so that you can always, and you could keep maybe have it spawn like in the middle of the last piece or something like that. I wouldn't necessarily want to generate new path nodes, but just this one path node. If there was a way to see this path node, you would see that every time a piece gets placed, that the path node would shift to that bone, and then the next piece spawns on it, and then it shifts to that bone, and then the next piece spawns on it, shifts to that bone. So anyways, yeah, that's it. That's dynamic roads. And again, this doesn't even have to be roads. This could very easily be gates and fences and doors and weapons or enemies or kind of anything that you want, you know, using an actor factory by simply just you know, throwing a random link here and saying however many pieces you want to happen. So I was just doing like 50 pieces. And the other thing you could do very easily would be that the very first thing that happens would be like this one would be a special case scenario where this would be like spawn start. And so what you would do here is on level load, you don't just go straight to choosing a random piece. You say spawn the start, and then at the end of the start it would do the road piece. So you'd always have a starting gate, and then very easily when this gets to over or equal to your final number, you could do another one. You could fire another event that says spawn the finish line. You know, you just have another finish line. That's a finish line object, and that'd be real easy. And I mean, it's truly dynamic. I mean, it's going to be random every single time you play this, which is a good and bad thing, because the thing is like, what if there was a track that you liked? Well, you're never going to get that back. You can see how many straights got put there because of the increased chance that the road straight happens. So for dungeons or something, I mean, these could be dungeon rooms. You know, if you have instance dungeons and you want to string together rooms and halls and stuff like that, just make sure that everything's going to fit together on its own grid anyway. Let's see, unhide all. As you can see, these all fit together and they'll circuit together. Like if I take the turn here, let's see, hide unselected. If I take the turn and I move this, the math is exact. It'll circuit. It'll just keep going in a circle. Like I can do something cool here. Watch, I'll show you. Just to make some fun stuff. Let's there was a spawn 90 right up. Let's see, spawn 90 right up. Where is that? So let me make a copy of that. So instead of throwing it to the random, I'll throw it to that every single time. And watch what we get. That will spiral up for 100 pieces. It'll just keep going until it gets to 100 pieces. So pretty cool stuff. I mean, I can't even catch it. Now if I knock this delay off entirely and just use the delay on each one, you can see it just goes and goes. And you can drive it. Might be kind of boring. I'm sure if you got the timing down, you can do it pretty fast. Yes. So you could drive it if you didn't have, you know, the suck for skill level. Actually, I'm a god mode at games. So yeah, that's it. That's dynamic roads. Hope you guys liked that and can find use for that. The key thing I've noticed, I was doing my research for this, because you always got to do your research, that static meshes don't work, but don't forget team static mesh. Now this is something that is UT. Okay, so if you've got your own game mode, you got to do that. Now somebody in the forums put out, and let me go here, put out some code for a dynamic actor factory static mesh. Now you can get this from here, or you can just do a simple search. I can't remember who was the guy who did it, but I'd like to give credit where credit is due. So what I did was I went to Google and very simply typed in Kismet actor factory static mesh. And the person who put that out was Rattlesnake. Okay, and I just copied that to a text file. Now what you do is you copy this, Control C, and you just come into Kismet and paste here, or hit Control V. It puts it somewhere. I'm not really sure where it put that, but if let's say I make a new level, and I don't want to save this because I know I don't need it. If I go to the Kismet here and I hit Control V, see, having that text and then you paste that, this will spawn regular static meshes. Okay, you can just pipe in a static mesh to it, no problem, and it works fine. So that code works. Okay, so like I said, just do search for Kismet spawn static mesh, and it was like one of the very first entries in the UDK forums. The guy gives you some code that you can paste right into the window, and once you do that, you get, it just pops in with this, and it's the same thing as the EX factory. I only used the EX factory because I was just doing a bunch of tests and that was like the last one that worked, so I just kept with it. But I do also know that that under factories here that there is UT Actor Factory Team Static Mesh, and that works just fine with the normal Actor Factory. So don't worry about spawning static meshes. It does work now. You just can't use straight up spawn static, factory static mesh. So this is HitPaws signing off, and I will see you guys in my next tutorial, which should be coming out soon within the next week or two, about combining Scaleform and Kismet. Hopefully you guys are gonna find that one useful too. All right.